Hey folks, Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist, and in this case addressing a very common comment that I get regarding my channel and especially regarding my books. This has been pointed out over the years in reviews that I get for my books in Amazon. By the way, if you like my books, if you can take just 1 minute, it's hugely appreciated. If you can just drop a review over there, that helps a lot. Now, one of the more common criticisms is that I talk about firearms quite a bit, and the comment is, yeah, that's good, but it's not useful for me because, quote unquote, I cannot have guns where I live. I cannot own firearms in my country. That is maybe one of the more common comments that I get. Now, the thing is this, that's usually not the case. It's usually not true that wherever you live, you cannot own firearms. It may be the case that it's not easy. It usually isn't. It may be the case that you're limited in the kind of guns you can own. Maybe you cannot get the latest AR that you saw in John Wick. Fine, but you can own some kind of firearm. In most, I cannot think of a single English-speaking country where you cannot own at least some type of firearm. And yes, I'm thinking of UK specifically. The more typical question is, here it's illegal. No, it's actually not illegal. You cannot own maybe handguns in England, Wales, and Scotland. You do have the ability of owning them in Northern Ireland, though, and you most definitely can own a shotgun. So, this is very common of people assuming that they have restrictions that they don't actually have. This is particularly true in terms of Spanish-speaking cultures in Latin America and such. It's very common for people, and that's why I wrote specifically in the Spanish version of my book, I wrote a chapter specifically about this, this trend in Latin cultures of, yeah, we're not allowed to have this when you actually are, assuming everything is illegal for you and you don't have rights. It's not as typical in English-speaking countries, but there's still quite a bit of that, especially outside of the United States. Outside of the United States, a lot of people assume, yeah, here you cannot have, specifically in the case of UK, extremely common. A lot of people in UK don't know that they can get themselves a shotgun license and own a shotgun, which is actually kind of easy to get. You have some restrictions, and depending on the kind of shotgun that you're going to be buying, it may be requiring a little bit more paperwork and such, but like a double-barrel shotgun, that's super possible for anyone that wants to get one. And in general, in countries where firearms are more restricted, you can still own some kind of shotgun. And usually you can own shotguns of other nature, like a pump-action shotgun or a semi-automatic shotgun. If I'm in a place where I'm restricted to shotguns only, I would try to get the more capable shotgun that I can, maybe a semi-automatic shotgun. In the case of UK, I'm going to be having, I'll have to go with a 24-inch barrel. Okay, it is still a shotgun. It's still a semi-automatic shotgun. That's a quite powerful gun. Even if I'm just limited to a double-barrel shotgun, that is still a very serious weapon. 12 gauge, that's no joke. Until not that long ago, coach gun, I mean the guy riding next to the guy riding the stagecoach, he had a coach gun, which is a double-barrel shotgun. I mean, even today, every single day, households are defended actually quite effectively so with double-barrel shotguns. It's, you have two rounds there, and they're quite powerful each, so they're quite effective at it. Would I prefer a semi-automatic? Yes, of course. You cannot own a handgun? Okay, so be it, but at least you have some kind of firearm. If you live in a country where you can own a pistol for, sport, practical pistol shooting, target shooting. I mean, a lot of people do target shooting with a Python revolver like the one I have here. That is a classic target shooting revolver. At the same time, you may get your license for target shooting, but it's still the same gun that has been very much favored by police officers in the United States, and at least not that long ago, some officers would proudly have a Colt Python in their holster. It is still a 6-shot 357 Magnum revolver. It's a serious gun. It's a serious piece. No matter if you're using it for target shooting or for, police service, it's still the same firearm. Here's where usually people start. Yeah, where I live, you are allowed to have a gun for sport, for hunting, for target shooting, for whatever, but not for home defense. Okay, fine. You practice whatever sport, whatever activity that's related to the gun you own. You probably will find something that you enjoy doing firearm related. You have different disciplines like double shooting with your double barrel. That's like skeet shooting, that sort of thing. Not something that I personally find very entertaining, but some people do. Target shooting is almost like meditation in terms of focusing, concentrating, and very slowly pulling the trigger with minimal movement or none whatsoever. And it's almost like a meditation process. And on the complete opposite of the spectrum, you have a practical shooting with a semi-automatic, where you're going to be going, even with a revolver, you can shoot practical revolver, and it's also going to be more dynamic, fast reloads, fast shooting, all that good stuff. So you are likely to find something, hunting, you're likely to find some activity that you actually enjoy related to your firearm and allows you to have it following the necessary requirements. So that's where people get to the point where, yeah, but I cannot carry concealed. Okay, you cannot carry concealed, so be it. At least you have it in your home. Yes, but I'm not allowed to have it for home defense and personal defense. Right, but you still have the gun. I mean, and that's pretty much something that you still have. Are you going to be using it for home defense? Of course not, if you're not allowed to use it. At the same time, if your life is on the line, your loved ones are about to get slaughtered, you're not going to be using it. I would say in most civilized countries that I know of, you still have a right to live, and you have a right to defend your life when it's being threatened beyond reasonable doubt. Even in places where you may get your gun for sport, for some hobby that you may have, even in those cases, there's more than enough examples of people that were forced to use that to defend themselves in spite of themselves, and the law still found them to be, exercising a legitimate right to preserve their lives. Some people may end up having more problems than others, depending on exactly how things went down and if there was an abuse of force and such. Of course, all of that may be possible. It is also possible that in certain situations where it's beyond any doubt, yes, you did in fact did whatever it is you needed to do so as to stay alive and not die, which you do have a right to pretty much anywhere civilized in this planet, okay? And even beyond that, at the end of the day, staying alive is really kind of one of your main priorities, whatever it is that happens later on, okay? You may need a legal defense or whatever, but you're still alive. That's what matters, all right? So all of that is why whenever people have this knee-jerk reaction of, yeah, we cannot have it. No, you most certainly can have some kind of firearm. Maybe you just don't want it bad enough. And I'm of the mentality, and I'm of the mindset and of this way of thinking that you should definitely want it bad enough so as to get it. Do whatever it is you need to do. Get your paperwork done. Do whatever, get to the range, which, by the way, you should be doing that anyway. You should be a member of a shooting range and practice and participate in these activities where you become comfortable and proficient with your firearms, taking classes, going hunting, whatever it is you enjoy doing, the most or several of those, depending on how much time and how much interest you have in all of this, but you most certainly can. So all of these messages that I get about, yeah, we cannot do that here, you probably can. It's just that you haven't looked into it enough, maybe you weren't motivated enough. I'm of the idea that you definitely should. Even beyond that, let's say you're just not interested enough to own a firearm. It's just something that you're not all that into. You should still know how to use a gun, because sometimes, even if you don't have a gun is going to be right there in the fight. It's going to be maybe the gun that someone else brought to that fight. If someone breaks into your house, they're trying to hurt you, they have a gun, they lose control over it, they forget it on a table, they drop it, you start fighting, struggling because you know your life is going to be ending if you don't do something. Having an idea of how these things work, how you can use them themselves, how you can impair their function by holding them a certain way, pressing on them a certain way, how to use a gun may be something that you most definitely end up needing to know in some of these extreme situations, in spite of you not bringing that gun to the fight. Maybe it's a terrorist attack and the terrorist dropped the weapon, or you managed to wrestle it out of him. Someone else helped you out. Basically knowing how to use this, maybe not using, but even just handling it safely so as to avoid hurting yourself and the people around you, in one of these active shooter cases or a terrorist attack or whatever it may be, that's going to be a big difference. The knowledge is always useful. So even if you're not looking to get yourself a firearm, which I insist, I think it's very much a priority for anyone interested in survival and preparedness, still knowing how to use it and handle it safely, that has to be there in the table as well. Folks, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Thanks for your support. See you on our next video. Take care.